Hey everyone, and welcome to How to Be a DM. I'm here with one of my most favorite people in the whole world. That's why I have to speak with a really high-pitched voice. Satine Phoenix, a wonderful human being who needs really no introduction, but let's give her one anyway. Professional dungeon master, storytelling coach, love that, and event creator of Satine's Quest, an all-inclusive luxury travel gaming adventures. There is literally nothing that you cannot do. And I know your bio could actually take 25 minutes because you've done so many wonderful things, but Satine, you're here.
It is my turn to talk in a very high-pitched voice because I'm so excited to see you. I do want to start, though, by letting everyone know that you inspired me with your books.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I like to tell you that every single time I see you.
And I appreciate that. I really do. I'm not going to lie. But I still, it blows my mind because I remember, our first conversation when we first communicated, and I was like,
I was shaky.
What?
I was nervous.
And then you were like, she's such a dork.
I was like, we're going to get along great. We're all dorks here.
Oh, it's the best. And I remember hugging you. Oh my gosh. We could just reminisce about those good old days. But
we're here for business.
We're here for business. And really, you are a huge inspiration to so many people. You've done millions of things. You've been on millions of streams as a player, as a dungeon master. You've done GM tips with Geek and Sundry. You are the epitome of dungeon master, and a person who's you do, but you're also so generous with.
Thank you.
But I will say, having all said that, I have played in a game where you've DM'd. It was at GaryCon a few years ago. And my character failed on an attack roll. Maybe I got a 1. I don't know what happened. And instead of just being like, no, you did not make the attack and move on, you were like, no, you failed at that. And your arrow bounced off a tree and it hits you and you take 7 points of damage. And I was like, what? I'm sorry. What kind of D&D are we playing here? And then I very quickly realized, oh my God, that's awesome. Now I actually want to fail because that's now a part of the story. We did not just move on. And I thought that was so unique. No one's ever done that to me before.
Thanks. I don't like it when people get sad. And so I try to make light of the situation and yet also consequences. And so when you push consequences really far, it can actually go beyond pain into fun. And so for you, that is probably one of my favorite house rules is if you roll a 1, you have to roll damage and tell everyone how you hit yourself.
Okay. Then I must have rolled a 1 for it because
you totally rolled a 1.
a pretty spectacular failure. But it's weird that I want more reality in my fantasy, but in real life, the equivalent of a real life 1 probably would be you did something really kind of stupid and fell down and hurt yourself, or your arrow bounced off a tree and it bounced back and hit you in the face. And I want that in my fantasy game. I really, really do.
Yeah, it's really fun. It causes the other players to really pay attention. Your party member got hurt. How can we be more present so that doesn't happen again? I do another one where in a very similar vein of people coming to each other's aid. And this one's more of a at the table, physical table, where if you drop your dice, you get disadvantage. And I've seen other players jump to save their friend's dice from falling on the ground. And it's all this roll for story. It's roll for cooperation, roll for not shaming people for the things that they can't do.
Okay, that's amazing. So where did this come from? Why did you start incorporating these things into your games?
When people roll low, I notice that they shut down. And my whole thing is open vulnerability. I am the most vulnerable person and I love it. And I kind of take things that high and low points, and I'll take a low point and I smack that right in the butt and I make it go way up high. And I kind of want to share that with people. So when I show people there's a fun consequence that can happen if you don't make something, it gives everyone else an opportunity to overcome the obstacle. It's the hero's journey, right? So study a lot of hero's journey. It's how to make a really fun and interesting game. So in storytelling, you have to have a lot of lows in order to make the highs really high. And so that's kind of where it all came from. It's how do I make these things that usually make people sad, make them funny or interesting? And even further, when I ask the player to tell me how they hurt themselves, they are so much more creative than I am. I'm like, yeah, you stub your toe. They're like, I lost a foot. I'm like, whoa, okay. All right. We're going with that.
I know, especially with new players, especially with adults, because it's, a kid can just be like, okay, I'm a spider. I get this. I can do that. But an adult, and when you say role playing to an adult, they're like, there's a lot of different connotations that'll pop into their mind. Or
I would never.
I wouldn't do that. Like, I'm not in therapy, or I'm not going to use a voice. Do you need me to wear a costume? There is that fear of vulnerability. There is that fear of looking silly, screwing up a rule or something. I see it happen all the time. Like, why? That's often even a barrier for some people as to why they say, like, I don't want to play D&D. I don't want to have to, act silly.
Well, it's a trigger, right? So I notice a lot of adults get triggered very easily. And I'm not saying that as a shame thing. This is a thing. I get triggered very easily for a whole lot of things outside of D&D. But vulnerability is hard for people because growing up, they were shamed by their parents, they were shamed by their siblings, cousins, family members, bullies at school, peers at work. There's a lot of shaming that goes on outside, and it causes these walls around people. And it's really hard to break down those walls the older you get. It is. That's a fact.
Yeah.
And once you get past breaking through some walls, and you're like, okay, I'm going to sit at a table. But then you still have other walls up, right? Because you have to protect yourself. But people don't know how to exercise their walls. Satine, Phoenix, has a lot of walls. At the game table, I have very few walls. The moment I step away from my game table, I have my adult boundaries. Well, actually, at the table, I have other boundaries. I have very game table boundaries. But when I step away, I have another set of boundaries that I put up so that I can function every day. But it is hard to be triggered when you are so open, right? So you're sitting at a table, you do a voice, one person laughs. Suddenly you go all the way back into high school when you sneezed during a test and everyone started laughing at you, and you went to grab your books and they all fell down and you just kept making more noise. And it's the triggers act as this like projection from past circumstances that get inserted into the game. So these people are really living it. I study a lot of PTSD recovery, and this is like a thing that happens when you are open with a group of people. So that vulnerability, that those triggers, they become visceral and real. And so it's important. So what I try to teach people is, everybody sitting at the table has an entire history of experiences and triggers and traumas. But for these 2, 3, 4, 6 hours, we are here together. And when somebody gets triggered, I try to coach everybody else to kind of hold a space for that person. And if I notice that somebody's triggered at my table, I and they don't give me a yellow or a red, because I use the red, yellow, green X card system. If they don't give that to me, I kind of pull away from them, let them kind of sit in their thing, and I move the attention over to another group of people. And then I'll test that person and kind of bring them back out of it. It is dungeon mastering for beginners. It's hard just doing dungeon mastering. And as you get more experience, you realize how amazing it is to create a safe place for people to be able to go back into their childhood and feel safe. And that is what we do. And that's why I'm so freaking optimistic all the time and positive, because it's all I want to do is to get people to overcome their traumas and be able to be these characters and overcome the obstacles that give them the courage to be able to go to therapy and deal with their traumas that they weren't able to do before, because they're so used to being in this like closed wall that has protected them for so long.
We, our interview on this episode of Dragon Talk is with Jamie Nash, who's a screenwriter and has a number of tips on the comparison of writing a screenplay or writing for TV and writing a campaign. Like being a dungeon master all his life has really taught him how to hone those skills. And it exactly what you're saying. Like you got to have the feeling, you got to hit him in the feels, and you got to have the low, 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 and bring it back up. So
that's so funny because my campaigns are all scripted. Like,
really?
Because I do, I'm a comic book artist, so I use screenplays for my comics.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so I use that in my games, and I time everything out too. So at 7:00, this happens. 7:15, this happens.
No way.
7:45. The world around the players is alive, and you have to make them feel like it's alive. They can go about and make all these choices, but the world around them, if they go left, there's still something over to the right, and that thing over to the right is going to do something. And eventually that's going to get back to the players. So
that was my critical failure. Was I always use the example of I knew what was to the right and my players went left, and I didn't know what was left. And instead of just moving what was right to the left.
Yeah, that's all you have to do.
I was like, I don't know what's there. This game's over. It's over.
Oh no, you got stumped.
Yes. Like immediately. And I could never regain my composure. Like I could have just been like, well, that door's locked. Go to this door.
That's true. The other thing you can do is go, 5-minute break.
Oh yeah. Like I know we just started, but we need a break.
Yeah, no, seriously. You're you control the world around you.
Yes. And I have learned, I have gotten a lot of good tips where I know now how I could, if only I knew then what I know now, it wouldn't have been such a failure.
The players don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And that was the biggest epiphany when I first started dungeon mastering. I was like, wait a second. They are literally just waiting for me to show them what the world looks like. I could make up anything, literally anything. I could read directly from this campaign book, or I can just make the entire thing up on the fly. And as long as I'm listening to them and hearing really paying attention to the choices that they're making, I can maneuver around and create a story based off of just what they're wearing and where they are and what if they go left or right.
Yeah. Because you're a pro.
Only because I failed a lot.
See? All right. So embrace failure as a dungeon master. And as dungeon masters, please teach your players to embrace their failures as well. Have fun with it. And that will help them become vulnerable. And that will just make the games better and a better experience for everyone. This is amazing, as usual. And I feel like I could talk to you forever. And maybe you'll come back because I know that you have lots of wonderful tips and tricks.
I would love to.
In the meantime, where can people find you and all of the amazing things that you've probably got cooking going on right now?
Woo! I got a lot cooking.
I know you do.
So Satine Phoenix everywhere at Satine Phoenix, satinephoenix.com. I'm a story coach at patreon.com/Satine Phoenix. My husband and I and his team created Sirens Battle of the Bards 5e campaign and setting. You can get that at thebardbook.com because bards. And and now we're doing events. I travel the world in luxury, and you can come with me for Satine's Quest, luxury travel gaming adventures. We basically take D&D. We play it on the table. We take it out into the world and do gamified excursions. We have masquerades. It's all inclusive. And it's the 7 days on a cruise. And then another one is in a mansion, Wentworth Mansion in South Carolina, like top 8 hotel in America. Yeah, I like gaming and luxury, and you're all coming with me.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
Thanks.
I love your brain. I do. All right. Well, thank you again so much for being here. And I cannot wait to talk to you next time.
Thank you.
Yay.